The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallops, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. Coming up in just a moment is former Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin, Dr. Lakin, a medical doctor in the military. He's the guy, a lot of you know about him, and you've kept up with his case. He chose to challenge Obama's eligibility by inviting his own court-martial. I'll let Terry Lakin, Dr. Lakin, tell you his story in just a moment. I've got to say this before we go further, though. This RC fellow that calls, this Obama bot, he's called before. He started off by saying, you need to listen to my show where there's no advertisements. Well, now, that ought to have been a dead giveaway. What he's got him a little blog show with about 50 listeners, and the reason there's no advertising is because he pays for it. He pays for, see, I don't pay anything for this, right? I mean, I'm on a major radio station that broadcasts to 4 states along the Gulf Coast, and we broadcast all over the world. And the reason we have so many, quote, commercials that he was so aggravated is because we've got sponsors, we've got advertisers, we've got businesses that know that we have tons and tons of listeners all over the United States and all over the Gulf Coast, and they want to advertise on 1330 WEBY because they get business from advertising with us. See, so little RC has got him a little program, and he tried to use this program to promote his program. He called up under the guise of being able to refute the birth certificate evidence of Mike Zullo, and all he could do was call names and trash this program to support his little 50-listener little internet program. So that tells you what kind of people are out there supporting the guy that's in the White House. Well, in the meantime, we've got a real American hero with us, a guy that our audience can really identify with, especially our regional audience right here on the Gulf Coast, because we've got military bases all up and down the Gulf Coast. Former Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin, as I said, medical doctor, military. He actually invited his own court-martial because he was challenging the identity of the man who's now commander-in-chief before he continued following orders from the so-called commander-in-chief. So, Dr. Lakin, thank you for being on Freedom Friday today. You've got listeners from coast to coast. They've been waiting all day for this, and thank you for being on with us.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Carl, and I truly appreciate, your listeners, and I appreciate everything that you and Mike Zullo and Sheriff Arpaio are doing. It's incredible. Yeah,
well, thank you. You're very kind for saying that. But listen, I haven't gone to prison for what I've done and in my work, but you have. So I'm not worthy to shine your shoes in this matter. But tell the folks, just start at the beginning. I know a lot of folks that listen to this program know your story, but we've got listeners, as I said, all over the world and coast to coast, and some of them have not heard your story. So for those who have never heard it, just give us a quick description of your story from the beginning.
Well, I guess people use the word that I invited my own court-martial, and I don't know if I did or not. I thought I was left with no choice.
Right.
But I think I was a good military physician. I was kind of reaching the pinnacle of my career. I had been selected for promotion to bird colonel. I had been a lieutenant colonel for many years and been given, great training and great jobs that I worked hard at and deployed several times. My last deployment was in 2004 to Afghanistan with the cavalry unit, and I loved it. That was my job, to be out there with the troops. I'm not a surgeon. I don't, cut people and cure them, but I can keep them alive to get them to a surgeon.
Right.
And, I had been in a training program and then a stateside program, and went to the Pentagon, and I was chief of primary care at the Pentagon. And that was kind of after, Obama had been in office for several years. But
right.
The run-up to his election, I realized there was problems. And when he got elected, I was following some of this issue about whether he was eligible or not, and I started pursuing it the way I knew how. I wrote letters to my commanders through the chain of command saying, please just come out with a statement saying that he's eligible and give me validation.
Right.
and none of them could do it.
Yeah, they can't do it. That's the thing, Dr. Lakin. When you challenge officials, look, if you could just prove to me that he's credentialed, I'll shut up. But nobody can prove it.
No, and I started writing my congressman, and I got the canned response that was prepared by the Congressional Research Service, who I think is, totally complicit in deceiving perhaps our congressmen with their analysis of it.
Right.
And I would get, replies back from my congressman stating that he's a citizen.
Right.
Right. I'm not sure they can prove that.
No, they can't. No one's ever. I mean, right now there's more forensic evidence that he's not even a citizen than there is that he is a citizen. Now, it could be that he is a citizen, Dr. Lakin, but I'm saying as far as evidence that's in our hands that's courtroom receivable, there's more evidence that he's not even a citizen.
There's a lack of that. But so I pursued that through my congressman, and the answers I got from their letters were horrible. I got transferred to the Pentagon, and I continued to talk to my superiors at the Pentagon, and I ended up, writing the same kind of memorandum to General Casey, who was Chief of Staff of the Army.
Right.
And his reply was that he didn't have to respond to me about this because he's not in my chain of command.
How convenient.
Claimed that he didn't have direct UCMJ authority over me, and so therefore he wasn't really in my chain of command.
Right.
Which I had difficulty understanding. And then I went up to Congressional Hill and met with some Congress members and some senior staffers on the Constitutional Committee and the Judiciary Committee, and the senior staffers look at me and they tell me that they knew something was wrong during the run-up to the election, but they couldn't get the media to do anything about it.
Right.
And, then Congress members tell me they don't know what to do about it either. And I had to look at them and say, you're the check and balance.
Right.
You're just as responsible for the safety of the troops as the executive branch who's deploying them.
Right.
And I lost faith in them. And then I came under orders to deploy to Afghanistan again with part of the surge that Obama ordered. And with that, I felt like I was being as direct as possible, being ordered to a deployment in a hostile zone.
Right.
By Obama. And I said I would deploy if there's validation that he's eligible to be my commander-in-chief. And that never came, and so I refused to deploy.
Right.
And subsequently, I was put under charges and under court-martial. And the hope was, with the run-up to the court-martial proceedings, that there would be a grand jury investigation or investigating officer that would allow me, under military UCMJ procedures, to cast a big net to get documents or to subpoena people and
to prove your case, to prove your allegation. Mm-hmm.
Right. And the investigating officer denied me all of that.
Right.
And, so I had no defense going into my court-martial and just pretty much had to ride it out and take my lumps.
Right.
But my choices weren't any better to deploy and risk my life and be complicit in risking other military members' lives for orders that I don't believe in. That was not a good choice either.
Right.
So.
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Lakin. This will just be your opinion, of course, but in your opinion, why do you think there is such a complicit, duplicitous effort to bury this matter? I mean, courts and Congress, and by the way, I know you know this, the Constitution puts the burden of this matter upon Congress. Article 20, Section 6, for example. I mean, Congress is the one. Listen, they investigated John McCain. And Senate Resolution 511, we know that. So they know that their burden is on them. They've already done a congressional investigation on one of the candidates. Why, in your opinion, are they so complicit in this effort to bury this matter with Barack Obama? Even in your court-martial, they wouldn't even let you explore the possibility. Yet they had a Senate investigation on John McCain. What is your opinion of this?
Oh, I don't know. I'm at a loss, too, Carl. I think perhaps along the road, there have been so many people that thought they could just slide by a little, or turn their head for a little while, and it would be gone in the next year or 2 or 3, and instead it's snowballed. And now all of a sudden there's way too many people that are complicit in this.
Yeah.
And they're probably afraid.
Listen, you've said it much nicer than I would say it, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, really, Dr. Lakin, I think that there are a lot of congressmen that won't deal with it because they know that when it's dealt with, they will be held responsible. That they have been complicit in the worst cover-up in America. You went to prison for nothing. In other words, you went to prison for standing up for truth, because the evidence that I know, and Lieutenant Zula, you are right. You were right, and you went to prison for it. And congressmen are accountable. Congressmen are responsible for you going to prison.
Well, I would hope there'd be otherwise, or I would have hoped that I never would have had to come to this point. It should have never been brought up for me to have this incident happen.
I know.
But I live with my decision. It hurts, but I live with it proudly.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been proven wrong yet.
You're going to go down in history as a real American hero, and you already are with a lot of people, Dr. Lakin. So I know, hold your head up, square your shoulders, don't give up, because I'm telling you, Sheriff Arpaio, Lieutenant Zullo, they hold, the cold case posse, they hold in their hands about 300 to 400 pages of forensic, courtroom-ready criminal evidence, not only with the birth certificate, but with several other items of which I'm not allowed to say over the air, that history is going to vindicate you, Dr. Lakin. We hope very soon, but even if it's years from now, you will go down in history as a true American hero.
Well, I just want our country and our Constitution back.
I know. Me too.
I'd be happy with that, Carl.
Me too. Me too. Listen, here's what we're going to do, Dr. Lakin. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, you've written a book called Officer's Oath. I want you to tell the folks about that book, where to get it, and then I want you to talk more about your endeavors in this. Your interjection into this endeavor with the birth certificate issue. Dr. Lakin, thank you so much for being with us today.
Now, back to your turn on 1330 WEBY, Northwest Florida's talk radio. The phone lines are open, so call in and join the conversation at 623-1330.
How can one man bother so many people by simply telling the truth? Freedom Friday with Carl Gallops, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right. Welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. We have our guest this afternoon, former Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin, Dr. Lakin. Dr. Lakin, thank you so much for being on the show again today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Carl.
Absolutely. Tell the folks first about your book, Officer's Oath. Tell them about it, what it's about, and tell them how they can get a copy of it.
Well, it's on officersoath.com. They can go to that website, and I'm a quiet, unassuming guy. I just wanted to do my prison time in Leavenworth and go home and be forgotten.
Right.
But I got a call from a great author. I got a call from Jack Cashel, and if you know Jack Cashel's work, I think he's a great Christian and incredible author that is. Yeah. I didn't know he had written Deconstructing Obama.
Yeah.
A very factual book that the guy knows his stuff.
Yes, he does.
To have the opportunity to work with Jack Cashel was an opportunity that I couldn't let pass.
Right.
And, we also had a very nice, wonderful author from New York, David Mercaldo, and his wife became a supporter of mine from day one, and David Mercaldo helped out with the book too. He, the first half of the book is kind of my story about what happened to me and a little bit about my prison time, and then the second half is vignettes and even short essays from good people like Joe Farah and Charles Kirshner and several other people that have just been along in this fight trying to get the truth.
Right. And so it's called Officer's Oath, and you can get it at officersoath.com. Of course, you can also get it at Amazon, right? An ebook and is it paperback, hardback? What venues is it in?
It's paperback, and then all electronic versions are on there also.
Okay, all right. So you can go to Amazon.com. Of course, folks, you can go to Carl Gallup's / Freedom Friday, and you'll see Dr. Lakin's picture there. And soon I'll have a link right there to his picture under VIP guest on our program, and it'll go right to his book, etc. So, Dr. Lakin, listen, we've only got a couple of minutes left before we close. So in your ordeal, you've done a lot of reading and research of U.S. founding documents, U.S. founding fathers. What are your thoughts on what you've uncovered there?
Well, I realized how little I knew from my upbringing. I tried to avoid politics and history growing up. I was a science biology type of guy, but I've 5,000-Year Leap was a great awakening for me, and reading Mark Levin's books, and then having a little bit more time in prison. I worked in our church library, and I ended up reading Charles Colson's books. Found really gave me a new Christian faith and solidified it. I think. Charles Colson was assistant to President Nixon, and then became has a great organization, the Colson Center, and my hope is that I can reestablish my family and start some other Christian outreach to prison ministries, or some Christian medical missions or something like that. But, I'm still a ways off from that, and still kind of feel like I'm a baby Christian, but I think our country had it right to have a wonderful Constitution that was probably inspired divinely, and we need to stay with our Judeo-Christian values.
Dr. Lakin, thank you for saying that. And by the way, we're going to have to go in the next few seconds, but Dr. Lakin, thank you for saying that. I, too, believe that our Constitution was divinely inspired. Now, not at the same level the Word of God, but the Word of God is divinely inspired. And what I mean, when I stand up to preach on Sunday mornings, if I'm in the Spirit, I mean, my preaching is divinely inspired. And in that same kind of way, I do believe the founding document, the Constitution, was as well. Well, Dr. Lakin, God bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. We will have you back. If you would come back sometime in the future, would you do that?
Oh, it'd be wonderful.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you and your listeners for everything they're doing.
We will have you back. And again, I do consider you to be one of our great modern-day American heroes, and I know that millions of others out there across this great land agree with me on that. We will have you back. Thank you for what you have done and what you are doing. Hang in there. You will be vindicated soon. I promise you. I know what I know, and you are already vindicated. But we're going to make it public soon. God bless you, Dr. Lakin. Thank you for being a part of the show.
Okay.
All right. Well, folks, listen, that interview with Dr. Lakin, of course, was live, and he's just hung up, and we will have him back on in the future, and you can get a podcast of that interview, hearing Dr. Lakin, former Lieutenant Colonel Terry Lakin. You can get that at carlgallups.com tomorrow afternoon. Again, let me remind you, go to carlgallups.com for everything. I mean, we've got news and breaking news and articles and videos and updated news feeds and news websites and tons and tons of videos and links to P.P. Simmons and Carl Gallup's YouTube and P.P. Simmons YouTube and P.P. Simmons Blogspot and P.P. Simmons Facebook. Tons and tons of Christian videos and biblical teaching, devotions that change every day. I can't tell you everything that's there. It's an amazing site, carlgallups.com. Plus all the information about the book that I've written, The Magic Man in the Sky, #1 bestseller on Amazon. Plus I've got a new book and a movie about the book coming out in just a few months from WND Books out of Washington, D.C. An amazing story. I can't wait for you to hear all about it. I will reveal that and break that right here on Freedom Friday very soon. In fact, I'm flying to New Jersey soon to be to do some filming with Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, the #1 New York Times best-selling author of The Harbinger. Jonathan Cahn has contributed to my book greatly, along with quite a few other names in the Christian world and the religious world, let me say. But Jonathan Cahn, he is going to be in the movie with me, as a matter of fact, and so I will be doing some filming in New Jersey in the next few weeks. I look forward to that. As soon as I can tell you what the book is about and the title, etc., I will, but I'm under contract right now not to reveal that until the time is right. But hopefully that will be coming pretty soon. But you can find out about all of that stuff at carlgallops.com. And then, of course, click on the Freedom Friday link while you're there, and tons of information about this radio program and our guests right there. That's where I'll have stuff about Dr. Grace's show as well. Well, you have been listening to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallops. Mallory Bardwell, your world-famous producer. We'll be back same time next week. In the meantime, folks, this has got to be settled spiritually. This is a spiritual matter. It's a spiritual issue. Get on your knees. Be in the Lord's house this weekend. God bless you. And I pray that God will bless America and deliver us back to a constitutional republic. Because right now, folks, we're operating in banana republic mode, but we're trying to change that. Pray for us. Pray for me. Pray for Mike Zullo and Sheriff Arpaio and others. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.